But yeah, so Island's done at 15 issues. Will they ever actually compile the entirety in some kind of like series, or do you think anything like that?
I mean, I guess anything's possible. I've been really on the kick of just putting out trades of the work.
Right.
Because I feel like Island was kind of a mad dash to get everything together from month to month, and unfortunately, there's some like 5-page stories that'll probably be lost in that. But I like the idea of putting out, like things like Michelle Perez and Remy Boydell did this thing called The Pervert in there, which is it's essentially like a transgender Snoopy working as a sex worker, and like the idea of putting out like a 200-page trade of that through Image is really entertaining to me, and I like the idea that I really like the idea of like a queer teenager going to a comic store and finding the same publisher as The Walking Dead publishing something about like transgender sex work or something, and and I'm aware that my agenda is not Image's agenda, but there's certain things that we got, like Island was the first place that Michael DeForge was ever published at Image.
Oh, okay.
And I am a little too smug that like we published DeForge at Image before Fantagraphics ever published him.
Oh.
I think. Which seems insane to me because I feel like he's one of the most interesting indie cartoonists working. So yeah, there's lots of I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah, I want to, and I really want there to be kind of like I want the creators that were in Island to continue at Image, and ideally I want there to be more gateways for new creators and for different creators to come into Image. I find it really frustrating that so many of the books that get talked about in mainstream comics are people that have to pass through Marvel and DC to even get their work known, and I feel like Marvel and DC are playing identity politics much more these days. But it feels, I might just be cynical, but it feels kind of like it feels very marketed, which from the company's point of view that makes sense, and maybe and ideally the creators aren't trying to market it as something, but I would like it if it was kind of less of a thing that here's a book with a queer character that we're selling as this. It'd be more interesting if they're just like, here's a queer creator that we're backing because they're good and not because they're filling a niche.
Yeah. So how much control did they give you over choosing who you got to put in the book?
Oh, it was complete total control. I mean, the advantage and disadvantage about Image is that there's no editorial there at all. So it was just this it was just putting together whatever we want, and it got really fun. Like there was one issue that I had an extra 15 pages in it, so I just dug around in my apartment and found a zine that I really liked by this British cartoonist named Dilraj Mann, and just sent him an email and was like, hey, it's an Island, and he had a coloring the thing for it. And it's something that he'd only photocopied it and sold it in England. So getting it out through Image, I feel like is a total different audience.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like that's awesome. Yeah, and it really is disturbing how difficult it is now to get published, even though you've got things like tools like the internet and different things like that you didn't have like when I was young, But I'm always beating myself up about trying to make comics and getting frustrated with them and being like, no, it sucks, and no one will ever look at that or publish it or whatever. When I do have all these tools like online to use at my disposal to try and make something actually happen or get it published, but I find there's so many people out there that have these amazing comics, and it's just like all I can really do is to help them is talk to them online. You know what I mean? And like, hey, I'll publish a review.
I feel like, what were you gonna say?
I'm just like, hey, I'll publish a review. You don't have like webcomics and stuff like that? You know, I feel like I'm like, oh, I really wish this could get published with like an actual label, but
Yeah, there's through words in that. I think there's lots of web work. It's kind of not my scene as much because I don't understand the, some of my friends that are lurking in the background here, like Lynn Beisel and Joseph Bergen, both work on Profit with me. They essentially live off of doing porn comics on a website called Flipshine.
oh,
It's a very busy hangout here.
all right, I won't keep you too long.
I'm fine talking forever. I'm just gonna make them look at more Zootopia porn. Andrew, right? What were we talking about? Flipshine. Yeah, or just stuff on the web. It's interesting. I really like that. Like you're talking about Cinebooks.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that comics is big enough that even if me and you are completely immersed in comics, there's still so much new stuff that we just like no one has the time to pay attention to.
Yeah, that's literally what it's like, though. Like,
yeah, I was at an Emerald City convention. I was waiting in line to get this Japanese artist I like, Kenichi Sanada was there, the guy who did like Bubblegum Crisis and all that stuff. And I was waiting in line to get my stuff signed by him. And next to where we were standing was a line for Homestuck. You know, the webcomic that's like, that's the thing that like no one in comics. I think Brian O'Malley did an interview with the artist of Homestuck.
Okay.
And it was this huge line, and it was like all these kids in like full costume, and like people like weeping when they're getting their stuff signed by him, and just seeing that and being like, oh man, those people. This is a huge part of all these people's lives, and it's a comic, and I'm just never going to read it, and I love the idea of that. And it's not like a quality judgment or anything. It's just like there's so many great comics that you can really find, which I also find more of a bummer too, because it's when you go to a comic store and you just are like, I had $20, but nothing here really excited me. I find it super depressing when when it's so easy to go online and just find brilliantly drawn Zootopia porn.
Yeah.
And that was one of my big goals with Island, talking to Emma, was basically there's so much fantastic work out there being done, but a lot of it doesn't fit into kind of the very narrow space that is like things that work in monthly comics. Like oftentimes in comics, the first question people have are like, how fast is this person? Which is something that like, nobody brings up in poetry. You know what I mean? Like nobody talks about it in film or something.
Right.
And I find it very like recently, Image reprinted Ron Wimberly's Prince of Cats, which I think is like a very singular work. There's nothing else like it on shelves, and I think it's like one of those things that it's one of the best comics I've read in a very long time. And still I hear people talk about like, how fast is the guy? You know what I mean? It's like James Joyce putting out a book and you're just like, can he do a monthly?
Yeah. That's probably like my number one complaint about the comic book industry is like people being shoved aside just because they like can't produce things that quickly. And I feel like when you're asking someone great to produce faster, it really dumbs down the quality of their work, and I feel like they know that too. It's just like everyone complains about like Frank Quietly not being able to put out books like constantly. Like, why isn't he putting out more books? He's amazing.
Because I found that hilarious because his body of work is pretty huge at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's put out so many books. Yeah, like come on.
Yeah.
And covers and other
I've seen that documentary with him. I haven't watched it yet, but I've just heard stories about how.
I haven't.
So I might be completely, I might be messing it up entirely, but a lot of it is like he's away from his family and he's like hunkering down, being like, I have to get this, Jupiter's Legacy or whatever done. And I don't know, it just seems like a big part of my life in comics is me trying to have a good life first and do comic books that are a reflection of that and not like, ruining my life so I, can crank out a million comic books. And I think that that's really important, because if somebody doesn't have a life, I don't really have an interest in reading their take on life. You know what I mean?
Funny that, yeah. No, I don't blame you. No, I mean...
Yeah. I think quietly should, go make a salad, take some time, think about it. I mean, obviously he does.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, I just realized we've been talking for like an hour, and I don't want to keep you. And I also have to go get I'm getting a tattoo consult today.
Oh yeah, what are you getting tattooed?
Oh God. This is like so hard for me. No, it's just so hard because like I've got this sleeve that I'm working on, which is all Star Wars, and then I've got like the Manara arm, like it's you can't see. So I've got Manara's.
Signature. I got to. Well, this is going to go longer because I just went to I went to dinner with Manara.
What? When?
I was maybe a month ago. I went to Lucca, Italy.
Oh, that's so unfair.
Yeah, my publisher, Panini, was really amazing out there. The editor out there, Diego, that I work with, is like just one of my favorite people I've managed to deal with in comics. And he's he likes my work a lot, and he knew what a big deal Manara was to me, so he kept being like, all right, Brandon, we're going to go hang out with Milo now. And I was like, no, we're not. And so we set up all this stuff where, like, I went to dinner with him. I got to talk to him about Mobius. I talked to his wife a lot about... I learned all this stuff I had no idea about, like, that he had, like, kids running around while he was drawing his porn comics.
Yeah.
I talked about his dogs a lot with him. And the thing that was really a huge deal to me is I got to draw next to him. Like, we did signings next to each other.
Oh, wow.
And people would they did a lottery thing, essentially, where they'd be like, you have 10 people can kind of get full drawings from you. So they have those 10 people, and so you can spend time doing a really nice picture for people.
Oh, cool.
And it was just this fantastic thing, because I'm sitting right next to Manara and, like, drawing a picture, and then I look over, and he's drawing a thing that just looks like a fucking finished Manara drawing. And it really, I did some of the best convention drawings I've ever done at that show, because it was next to the guy. And he was really nice. It was a weird mix, because I got a drawing from him. I brought my copy of Butterscotch that I had since I was 16.
Oh, wow.
And got him to sign it. It was a weird mix, too, because I should talk too much, but it happens a lot to me where I was in, this is not a real complaint, but I was in, I often end up in European cities at conventions, and they try to stick me with the other Americans there, and they're just like, it's just like a grab bag of random superhero artists that I don't necessarily get along with.
Oh, okay.
And the Italy one was especially weird because, like, Manara and Frank Cho were really being up during the convention.
Right.
And I'm sure Cho's a lovely human being, but I just can't be around the guy. He's just like, I don't know, just like his like desperation of trying to piss off people by drawing the same butt over and over. It's just like, it just seems super... It's bad when the guy who's been Googling Zootopia porn all day is calling someone juvenile, but it just is like, yeah. And the thing that bugs me so much about the reception with Manara's work in America especially is he worked with Fellini and he worked with Hugo Pratt. He did these things that I think are comparable to their work, and he did like his Bergman series I think is fantastic, and some things in comics that I've never seen done before or since. And he's just going to be known as, like, the porn guy, the guy who drew, like, Bridget Bardot a bunch of times, and it's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, yeah. I haven't been keeping up with what Cho's been doing since the original first the butt one from Manara, making fun of Manara's Batwoman.
I think there's a Wonder Woman thing, which is really interesting because I had to actually side with him on that. Not like my opinion matters in the thing, but DC Comics kind of took his work and tried to like crop it in weird ways to make it like they'd like crop Wonder Woman's butt on a drawing, and it's this weird thing where it's like, you hired this guy, like, you know what you're getting.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like, so originally when Cho had done that, or first drawing there of Manara's, making fun of Manara's work or whatever, I thought it was really
Right.
hilarious because I was one of the few people, from like female reviewers that was like, why are people getting upset? Marvel hired Manara. Like, what did they think
Right.
was going to happen? And because it was a variant cover to me, it just didn't. I didn't understand why people were upset. And it's like, ooh, unrealistic female bodies, and I'm like, have you been paying attention to the last fucking 100 years? I don't understand why were you getting upset. Anyway,
Yeah.
so
Well, I think that's interesting because I think it was entirely, from my point of view, it seems like it was entirely a marketing thing.
I probably,
Where,
yeah,
kind of back to that, where they were like, they're essentially like, hey, women that are kind of, because I think Marvel's really been struggling with a lot more female readers than they're used to,
yeah,
and so it's probably like a lot of really young women that are like coming into comics in the last couple of years, and then they're just like, hey, women, check out, here's a cool female character for you to check out, and then it's Milo Manara and like Greg Land, I think, on interiors. It just seems like a really weird choice to.
yeah.
It's like the marketing team and the creative, the editorial was like a huge disconnect.
Yeah.
It seems to happen. I mean, it happened with like J. Scott Campbell did like a variant cover that everyone was pissed about.
Yeah. There was the Batwoman cover that everyone was really upset about too. That was kind of like what was it, referencing Killing Joke or something? Like,
yeah,
like,
and I think
that was
a lot
over
of it too
ago.
was just the joy of hate reading stuff and enjoying complaining about things.
Yeah, and
because to me it's like if I want to make fun of something, I can just look at a comic news board, message board or whatever, or just like see like the news that's coming out.
yeah,
But at the same time, like, or I could just go to like I could go to Cinebooks website and just be like find some stuff that's all really good,
yeah, no, exactly. But
I know there's a lot of people are very tied to wanting good superhero comics and good Marvel comics, and that's not. I have to come to terms with it. When they get really good, when they put out really quality work, it's not what I want. I want to be able to make fun of it. So, for whatever that's worth.
You're getting what you kind of want there, then, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there's some fantastic work that I've read that. When I was in Italy, another artist I got to hang out with was the artist on the Vision series right now, which I haven't read yet, but his work is fantastic.
Vision
I'm
series.
spacing on his name. Yeah, there's a new Vision series that's out. I'm very out of touch with most Marvel and DC things. I like to follow the outrage and not the books, which is... I'm like, guys, maybe publish some more as Utopia.
It's
Did you hear about the Snagglepuss thing that came out recently?
No, what's that?
So DC Comics, they have a line. I've only read about it a little bit, so I might screw it up. But DC Comics, they have a line of like Hanna-Barbera stuff they've been doing. There's like a very horribly redesigned Jim Lee like post-apocalyptic Scooby-Doo, and then Steve Pugh is doing like an incredibly beautifully drawn Flintstones comic.
Okay, yes, okay, I know about the Flintstones, yeah.
Yeah, and so they put out one that's like a Snagglepuss comic where he's like a gay 1950s playwright.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And to me it seems like I'm really find the idea hilarious, because it's like, I was joking on Twitter about they're like DC reinvents Snagglepuss as a gay playwright, and I was like, oh, did you reinvent Water is Wet too? Because that character's always been that. And it was interesting because a lot of people who kind of come from drawing anthropomorphic furry stuff were upset about kind of how it was drawn, because it was a super artist coming into it.
Oh, okay.
It was an interesting overlap.
Wow.
And another thing that I'm beat up your entire time, and you're gonna be late for your tattoo appointment.
No, I'm fine. I've got so much time.
One of the things that Image has been most responsive to in Ireland was we published this artist Anta, who he does essentially gay furry comics online, and this is a really fantastic artist. So I contacted him and was like, hey, you want to do something that's not porn for once in your life? And he did a thing about it was the Island Number 6. He did a thing about like a bunch of his characters from his Marty comic going to a gay pride parade and how they each react to it.
Okay, yeah.
It's kind of very fun kind of slice of life thing. And that was one of the things that the publisher of Image reacted strongest to in a positive way. And we're like, we need to get this guy doing more stuff because our marketing people tell us that there's a big like furry audience for this stuff.
Yeah.
And I wonder with the Snagglepuss thing, if there were, I feel like DC was probably completely unaware of that readership in general. And they were just like, let's just do a Snagglepuss comic because why the fuck not?
I don't know. You think that like even like for here, our city actually has like a very large furry community.
Right.
Because like I don't know if you've noticed on Facebook, but like I run fetish events here in Halifax.
Oh.
So I put on a fetish event every month with my partner. And anyways, we often get the furry community out because they have very few places they can kind of interact, you know, wearing their outfits and not be super conspicuous.
Right.
But anyways, here, the furry community is also very tightly ingrained with the brony community, which I'm not sure if that's also a thing everywhere else around the world, but here it is. You'd think that maybe DC would have seen all the excitement over the pony thing and been like, let's do something to get that audience, you know? I don't know.
That's interesting. They make My Little Pony in Vancouver, where I live. Mm-hmm. And I'm always hearing stories about, like, they just moved their studios, but there used to be a place above a diner, and they weren't allowed to talk about My Little Pony in the diner because people would wait there to try to hear things about it.
Yeah. People are serious about that shit, man. Like, super serious.
The stuff that furry stuff overlaps. I don't know anyone that dresses up, but I know people that draw the stuff, and it seems like it's almost like a different scene.
No, we have the dress up community here, like, for both, like, the bronies and the, which are male and female, coincidentally, I don't know. The furries, they're very tight knit. Maybe it's because we're such a small city, so you kind of have to make friends with the other people that like to dress up as animals. I don't know, but you know, they're all very also into comics and games and stuff like that too. Like it's very much that kind of like scene, and you know, the kawaii kind of like Japanese like kind of you know, I like everything that's cute and pastel. That kind of attitude, but.
I find it really interesting. I was almost thinking the other day about how the internet has really changed what counterculture means, and it's really fascinating to me how you get groups that are essentially like almost find things that are completely maligned by the rest of society and make it their home.
Yeah.
You know, because like it's so easy to pick on and find people picking on bronies, but it's really interesting people that are like. Get some joy out of that. It's like you know, mazel tov.
Yeah, I mean, like, I run fetish events. Like, I accept that there are people that are into things that I'm not into, and it doesn't bother me. So, whether you're into ponies, furries, or leather, or, you know, PVC, it's all the same to me, really. I'm just like, you're into what you're into. I am not offended by that. And I don't see it as a point of making fun of people for it, either. Like, I don't get that. You know, maybe, like, in, like, a fun sort of jest way, like, with your friends. But I would never, like... I think, like, online, you know, people make fun of furries and furry porn because it's so bizarre to them. I guess if you see it all the time like I do, it's just another thing. I was going to
say that it's probably really healthy to run events like that just because the types of people that you get to meet, they're outside of your circle. Like, I really, I really enjoy being mean. And, and I find that the more people that I meet from different walks of life, it cultivates my venom to really find who I want to pick on and, you know, try to punch up and you know, and it's something like, you know, the furry stuff's funny because it's like it is a really sweet community of people that are just like trying to find things that they connect to, and I imagine there's a lot of that in any fetish scene that people just like, like imagine you're also dealing with, hopefully not too many, you're probably dealing with creepy people too, but as happens with any scene, especially dealing with any sexuality.
Yeah, I mean, you'll always get those people that are creepy in a way because they have a inability to interact with other people socially, and then you get the other people that are creepy in the way that they're actually not very safe people to be around.
Yeah, those are
a whole other level of creepiness.
Those are socially awkward is always endearing, but creepy, whole other animal.
I can definitely deal with socially awkward. But
those are my people.
But when you get creepy, which thankfully doesn't happen very often, most creeps don't like to go into public because they'll be found out, right? So most creeps are online on like FetLife or the dating sites, being creepy there behind a computer where it's safe. But
terrifying. Yeah. And I imagine there's a lot of people that I find it really fascinating, the idea of how people will act differently via the internet than in person. Mm-hmm. I've never been able to. I feel like my kind of adult experience with the internet was always attached to my work and selling my work, so I've never been able to be kind of anonymous on there in the same way that. So before I let you go, I want to ask if the quality or lack of quality in any Star Wars movies has ever changed your opinion about getting Star Wars tattoos.
Yeah.
Like if you watch a really good Star Wars Rebels episode, does it raise or lower? Like if somebody is like, hey, you remember Jar Jar Binks? Is it like, oh shit?
So my tattoo artist and I, he's always kind of given me shit because sometimes I'll like drink or whatever when I'm getting tattooed, and he'll be like, hey, if you pass out, you're getting Jar Jar, like, you're fucked. And I'm like, you asshole, you would never do that to me. And he's like, no, I would really never do that to you, but it always comes up. But yeah, obviously I grew up with the original Star Wars movies, so my Star Wars sleeve is all the original stuff, and it was done like that on purpose, and even when it continues down here, that's what it'll be. I don't think there'll be any of the newer characters, although I didn't dislike the last movie. I thought the last two movies were good, actually, even though they were just carbon copies of the original. But I hated the ones that came out in the 90s when I was a teenager. I hated them. It ruined my life. It really, really bothered me. Because I was just such a huge fan, So, but yeah, I definitely won't be getting Jar Jar or any of those characters. I've
What about the Ewoks movies? You know, the woman that turns into the crow?
Actually, the Ewoks movies are my favorite when I was a kid. Like, I love them to death. So
they're really good.
I wouldn't mind getting like the Battle of Endor tattooed somewhere. Yes. Because I really liked the cover too of the original VHS, where they had like I can't even remember the bad guy's name, his face, and there was like the moon or whatever, or the planet. I think it was one of the moons or whatever. But
I just sent you. I did a comic book about how the second Ewok movie was such a betrayal to me.
Really?
Yeah.
Why was it such a betrayal?
So the first movie, the entire point of it is in the first movie is you get to the end of it and you're like, oh, they found their families reunited and everything's cool.
Yes.
Then the movie ends, and the second movie starts almost like 20 minutes after the first movie, and her family's immediately murdered.
Yep. Fucked.
Evans and that and Alien 3 are like the two big betrayals of
now I gotta go
rewatch
those. No, I'm gonna go rewatch those now because I'm like, fuck, I haven't watched those in like years. I have to watch them because like
those and the Droids cartoon are really worth going back to.
Oh, the cartoons.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I gotta watch that stuff. Doing that tonight. That's what I'm doing tonight. I'm gonna have a beer and watch the Ewoks. So I have a question for you too before I let you go. I've been looking for somebody who would want to do like a monthly quick video check-in to talk about up and coming artists, and I really haven't asked anyone about it because like I wasn't sure, if it was too ambitious, and I know people, especially comic book artists and writers, are super busy all the fucking time. So I was like, I don't know if anyone would be up for this. But I thought I'd ask you if that was something maybe you'd be interested in doing. Like, it doesn't have to be very long, but just kind of like a quick video, which of course I'll edit together. But just do it over Skype like this.
Right. Yeah, that'd be fantastic. I feel like finding artists whose work I'm excited about is kind of part of my process.
Yeah. Okay.
I feed off of good art, so I need to find good artists all the time. So that would give me a really good excuse to have to kind of put it in words and not just put out a tweet that's just like, check out this, look at this cool pony drawing this guy did.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally know what you mean. I'm always trying to use Twitter more, by the way. You're much better at it than I am. I'm like, come on, Amy, tweet about something. What are you going to tweet about?
Sometime when I'm not recording, I'll tell you about the times it gets me in trouble, which is always makes for hilarious stories.
What? Oh, okay. All right. Why is it? Has it gotten bad?
Yeah, well, it's the thing about comics politics that I've learned is everybody's friends, and speaking critically about people.
Ooh, yeah.
Like, I love making fun of work, and plus just interesting interactions. Like, I called someone's work a trash fire, and then I met them in person. And was really interested in talking to them about it, and they were not interested in talking to me. Because I was like, I've never met someone whose work I just like so much as you. Can we talk about it? It wasn't good. But
that's horrible. That's pretty great, though. I mean, I don't know. Anyway, it's horrible and great. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, I like that stuff too much.
So this is my, by the way, this is my tattoo thing I'm going for my back, a consultation to get my back completely done. And what? I have been fighting kind of my significant other on what I can put on my back, because he's like, something.
It's Milo Manara. Have you seen the Manara drawing, the Manara Star Wars drawing he did recently?
Which one?
He drew Rey from the. Is it Rey? He drew the main lady from.
Yeah. On Facebook, he put it. That's up there on Facebook.
Oh, yeah. Because I think that's what it has to be. It has to be Manara Star Wars.
Maybe, but that could go on here. Because this is my Manara my Manara arm. Like, it's going to be done, but it's not done yet. So it'll just be Manara art.
My Instagram took a photo they had in Italy. They had his handprints that they like had his print, his hands in cement or something, and I took a photo of it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe I'll just send you a bunch of the dumb Manara pictures I took because I was just obnoxious with him.
Oh, I want to see them. That'd be awesome. I really want to go to Italy. Ugh. Anyway, but yeah. Anyway, so I'm trying to get done on my back is a Mobius picture. Now, I don't know how this will, or what even piece to do, because there's too many that I like. So I'm just going to go talk to my guy and be like, would you be interested in recreating this? Because he is an artist and he's a fantastic artist. He draws everything himself, right? Recreating stuff for tattoo artists isn't really always a thing they want to do.
Right, certainly.
So, anyways, that's my thing. That's my thing today.
An Asterix and Obelix tattoo was my plan in the next week or so.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
So all of my tattoos, aside from the thing on my neck, are all like references to. They're all tied into friends of mine tattoos. Like, I've got this prophet
nice.
thing on my arm.
Yeah.
And like outside here, smoking pot is a bunch of people that all have the same tattoo. Everyone, like almost everyone that worked on Prophet with me, or a lot of the people that worked on Prophet with me, got the same tattoo. The colorist on Prophet actually gave everyone the tattoo.
Oh.
And then I tattooed his leg very badly. And like this one, I've got a Tintin tattoo on this arm.
And now you all have Hep C, right? Because you all use the same needle.
But yeah, the Tintin tattoo is my friend Joe Keating, who writes Shutter and Ringside and a bunch of stuff, has the same exact tattoo.
Nice.
And so I'm going to get an Obelix tattoo, and I'm going to get it in the style of my friend Farrell Dalrymple's flying monkey tattoo he has on his shoulder.
Oh, I love Farrell. Like, we've been trying to do a interview for, like, months, but every time we try to line it up, it gets fucked over.
He was actually sharing this place with me in Portland until he left yesterday, so you just missed him.
Oh my god, crap!
He's down at a birthday party in California right now. He'll be back Monday. You should interview him on Monday.
Oh, okay. Oh, we'll see. I'll message him again. He's hard.
Yeah,
he's always moving around.
And he's been doing some really fantastic work lately.
Oh yeah, I've been watching. He did. There was a Kickstarter floating around last week that he contributed to a piece. I can't remember what it was called, but it looked really.
Oh
good.
yeah, I did something for that too. If it's the same one, the Carell's Ring or something. I'm spacing up that our friend Shannon Lenz put together. It's like a comic book anthology that.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, it's like me and James Stokoe and like Sandra Lanz and Simon Roy and basically Shannon's he's a scientist chemist up in Vancouver. He's a fantastic writer, and he hangs out with kind of my circle of friends, and he's bullied us all into illustrating a cool science fiction story he's done.
Cool. All right. Yeah,
so
that's
actually,
awesome.
I'll show you. I got right here. I have because I have to bring these up to Canada with me. These are Farrell's originals he did for it.
Ah, that's wicked.
Yeah, he drew them amazingly small. Cause like let me like this is too big, but this is the size that I draw my like Image Plus. I do a one pager on the front of comics, and I did this big.
Oh wow!
In relation to Farrell's tiny little pages. These are printed the same size.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I always find that interesting. Like Tom Neely, for instance, always draws really, really big. And another person who always draws really big is Shaky Kane. He always draws really, really big, and then gets shrunk down so tiny. It's weird.
Shaky Kane's work. I feel like if you saw, I used to be roommates with Corey Lewis, who just Shark Knife does a bunch of stuff, Sun Bakery, and he would drive me insane because he would draw all of his pages on different size paper. Because like one would be like 8.5 by 11, and then you have like a giant thing.
Yeah. Shaky did my my Frog Queen logo.
Oh, cool.
I really like Shaky. I really like all his work.
It's really fantastic. He seems like, we did Image ads at one point, and I think for his, he like wore a wig and had like a disguise on, so that was really interesting.
That sounds familiar.
He's got kind of a persona, right?
Kinda, I guess. Like, cause like he's like kind of like an older punker, kind of like.
Right.
I guess like he's super awesome. Like he's vegan, and like I've like chit chatted with him like a bunch over like Facebook, but we haven't sat down and done an interview because he's been busy, and he also was like, I don't really know if I want to be seen. Like, a lot of people are, like, kind of, like, weird. They're, like, not weird like that, but, you know, just not comfortable being on a video. So, anyway, but he did that really good little one-shot last month or the month before, the Cowboys and Insects. I loved that, with David Hine.
I haven't seen that one.
Oh, it's so good. It's only, like, yay big. I probably have it right here.
Okay.
Yeah. It just had it in my pile. It's like this big.
Oh, wow. I haven't seen that one.
It's so good. But
so did Hine write it and Kane drew it?
Yeah. And they did the Bulletproof Coffin together. Like.
Oh, yeah. I only read the first issue of that, but I think there's a copy of it around here I need to read.
Nice.
I've got an insane stack of comics here I have to read soon.
Yeah, I could show you my place, but it's too embarrassing. I'm not going to because I'm moving, right? So,
yeah,
it's
certainly.
just boxes. It's just boxes. But yeah. Anyways, I probably should get going because I have to walk across town, and it'll take me like an hour.
Thank you for letting me talk to you, Rose.
No, thank you so much for doing this. And if you're up for doing a regular thing, I'll message you in a couple weeks after I move and see what your schedule looks like.
All right, my schedule is always never very busy. Like,
oh, that's good.
My life is a perpetual slumber party that never ends.
Okay. That's fun. More fun than my life, because I have to go do the 9 to 5, but whatever.
That's good. And then you have to go do like fetish parties and things when you're not doing that.
Yeah, well, that's the interesting stuff.
Yeah.
But that only happens once a month. Otherwise, it's just software novel or software user guides.
That's so. I got dragged to a fetish party in New York. A friend of mine I was having an art show at.
Oh, nice.
And, and I brought 2 of my friends with that were just like the most squeaky clean or ridiculous. One of them wore like a Buffy t-shirt and kept being like, "Get it." And there was this moment of my friends there, and there was a guy dressed in like a rubber gimp suit that was led into a room with a pommel horse in it.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting on the couch just like drawing. And I saw my friend walk by the room after the dominatrix had led the guy in the gimp suit into the pommel horse room, and just saw like his face reacting to whatever was going on in the room. I don't know. So that's my personal trauma I'm dealing with.
That's trauma? Okay.
It was fun.
All right. Well, thank you so much for doing this, and I hope to talk to you soon.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks so much for the interview, and good luck on the move.